Okinawa, and being in the Seabees, he had enough early warning, so his Seabees got busy and they reinforced all the tents, so they went through the typhoon without any trouble. But after he came back, that's when he moved to Phoenix. He never did go back to Firestone except for just a few weeks, and then he went into teaching automotive at a large high school in Phoenix.
How about telling about Heck's sleeping over in the women's dormitory?
Oh, golly, that takes it back to Kalamazoo College. All you had to do was to give him a challenge, and he'd meet it. Well, one night somebody said, well, boy, do you think any male has ever slept in a women's dormitory? Well, it ended up that Heck accepted that challenge. And he was waiting tables there for his meals, and so he knew his way around. But he pulled it off. He stayed in the women's dormitory all night, and he won the bet. Well, this is just one of the little things that he pulled.
There's an interesting parallel with your life in college and Heck's life in college, in that you played the saxophone and were in a little band and used to play some jobs outside, I guess, didn't you? Tell about your father.
Oh, yes. Well, I had a saxophone when I joined the fraternity. Why, we had quite a few musicians, and I think we had about 7 pieces in this band, and we started playing at the hotel in Albion for Saturday night dances. And this was a nice experience. It was a real nice little band, and we had a good zip to it, and it was during the good music era. But one vacation, I went home to Colon, and I took my horn home, and a bunch of the boys from college and boys from the high school there decided they wanted to put together a little band, and they asked me to sit in with them, and so we did. We put together a band, and of course my father was minister there, and being the strict type that he was, well, this was verboten. But anyway, they wanted to put on a dance there in town at one of the dance halls, and so they set it all up. And my father told me, he says, you're not supposed to do that here. Well, being probably a sophomore in college, I said to myself, well, boy, this is nuts. So I showed up to play that dance. And I can remember everything was going all right, and somebody slipped in and said, your dad's coming up the stairs. So I wasn't going to get into any hassle right there in front of everybody, so there was a bunch of windows and a fire escape in back, so I just left everything there and slipped out the window. And I don't remember what the end result of that was. I don't think there was too much of a problem, but during that period, they had some nice girls there in Colon. Boy, good-looking kids. So I started dating 2 or 3, and we'd go down to Klinger Lake on Saturday night, where there was a dime a dance, and they had the big bands. And Dad he was real good about it. He'd let me take the car, and we'd load it up with kids, and away we'd go. But one Sunday morning, he had to go to an out point where he preached, and he went out to get in the car, and I think it was either 2 or 3 tires were flat. Dad never drove over 30, 35 miles an hour. Well, that wasn't my nature. I was hooping it up.
And the old tires couldn't take it.
The old tires couldn't take that high speed. Boy, I never changed tires. So he got me out of bed, by the way, and I never changed tires so fast in all my life because he was on a time schedule. But we got those tires all fixed up, and I guess he made his preaching engagement.
Well, that's a funny story.
Yeah.
Now, Mom, how about telling us about your brothers and some of their antics growing up?
Well, most of the antics in our family were caused by the oldest one of our family, so-called Mim, or William. And actually, a lot of the things that he did, I have only heard about in later years as they've told the stories. I think one of the funniest stories was the Mim and his girlfriend, Avis, whom he later married, were sitting in the back seat of the car, my father's car, in the garage, and just having a little spooning party, so to speak. And my father had to go downtown, and so he went into the garage, and they immediately shucked down off from the seat and into the bottom of the back seat so that he wouldn't see them, and he got in and drove downtown, and just, I guess, never did discover that they were there at all. Drove back home again.
I think a sequel to that was Mim and Avis were out in this Buick, and they drove it into a barn out by Hem Streets to do their thing. And your dad wanted the car, and he had a pretty good idea just where they might be. And he went out there and walked right into that barn and found them.
My father got pretty sharp on the problems of finding Mim.
How about the story, Dad, about Uncle Bake at Kalamazoo College and getting caught by the gendarmes?
Oh, well, I'll tell you another one about Mim. He liked to trout fish, and so did I. And before we leave this, and we would go up to Belair during the trout season, and boy, we just spent all our time on those wonderful streams. But he started to, well, he and Avis bought a hardware store, and we had kind of a signal. We'd drive into town, I'd blow the horn, he'd go down in the basement where he kept our bait and where it was cool, our worms. He'd fill up a can of worms and turn the key in the door, and he'd come up and away we'd go fishing.
It's a good thing we didn't go to any more often than we did, or his business would have collapsed sooner than it did.
Now, where are we going from there?
Well, now, wait a minute now. I forgot one, too. What about this dynamite in the tree?
Oh, yeah, well,
Or don't you want to tell that story?
maybe Mother better tell that one.
Well, the only thing I know about that is that to celebrate the 4th of July, Mim, on occasion, I don't know how many occasions, would tie a stick of dynamite in a tree. And at dawn or so on the 4th, he would set that off, so the village would awaken with a blast, so to speak.
Okay, that's a good one.
Now, you didn't answer the one Bob just asked you about Bake at Kalamazoo College.
Well, Bake was a real student all through high school and college. Fact is, he graduated cum laude, didn't he?
Magna cum laude.
Magna cum laude from college, and so he was a real student, and he never got into any trouble, apparently. Well, they used to have water fights in the spring in Hoban Hall at Kalamazoo College, and they were getting along toward the point where Hoban was worn out, and they came to the spring deal, and boy, the water fight started, and of course the water fight, they had these fire hoses around, and it really was quite a deal. Water would be running out of the place, and a big, everybody was just letting go because the school year was about over. But this one year, the year just before Hoban was to be torn down, the authorities had warned them that there was to be no water fight. So then what did they do? They took a bunch of mattresses up on the roof and set fire to them. And when the fire department arrived, the water fight started. And it was quite a blast. But when it was all over, why, the police, who had been asked to come and calm the riot, went through the dormitory and lifted the covers on my brother Burton, who was quite a man on campus, I guess. And here he was in bed with his clothes on.
Okay, Dad, how about telling us about your business in raising onions and some of the rattlesnake episodes?
Oh, well, when I graduated from high school, well, a year before I graduated from high school at Martin, we put in about 3 acres or more of cucumbers. And
You told all about that on the first taping, I
did
think.
I? Yeah.
But not the tale of the rattlesnakes, perhaps.
Well, let's get this thing right.
Jump right on the rattlesnakes.
All right. Well, did I tell about the raising of the onions?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Boyson had built me a little shack to live in, a little house. We had no refrigeration, and I kept my butter and stuff that would spoil down in a cold creek that was right beside it. And we had this police dog, Ann, the female, and that I owned. And of course I kept her there, and she delighted in chasing snakes. But one afternoon after work, I was going down to get the butter, and I heard Ann kept going back and forth, so I couldn't get down to the creek. And I kicked her away and went down in there. As soon as I got down there, boy, I heard that rattlesnake, and boy, I went back on the road. I don't think I touched anything between down by the creek and the road. And then I got my hoe, and I went down there, and I found a rattlesnake. But the road in front of this place, when it get cool, these rattlesnakes would crawl out on the warm stones, and this dog would always let me know when there's a rattlesnake out there on the road. And she always loved to chase blue racers. They're pretty hard on the crop, but she'd take them across there, and they're very fast. And they'd grow probably 4 or 5 feet, even 6 feet long. Beautiful snake, harmless. But one time, my work was pretty well caught up, and Mr. Boyson asked me to help in the hay. And it was alfalfa, and they grew that to fertilize this land. And I said, sure. So I went over and to help, and he said, well, where are your hip boots? I said, I don't have any. And so he said, well, we'll fix you up. So he fixed me up with some boots, and we went out to the hayfield, and I think that afternoon we pitched up 12 or 13 rattlesnakes up on this load. They were underneath the hay where it was gathered in the field, and then we pitched this hay up on the load, and these rattlesnakes would go right along with it. That was quite an experience. And another time, Burton was helping me weed in a new piece of land. And it was a cold morning, and we were weeding right side by side going down. We'd take 3 rows for each. And we were visiting, and all of a sudden we heard it, and Bake went right straight up in the air, and his hand came right down on a coiled rattlesnake. Boy, did we kill that one.
Plus a few onions.
Yeah, we hoed up probably half an acre of onions.
Well, more or less.
There are some experiences that I'm sure were very frightening to you. 2 come to mind. First, the time when your father was almost drowned at Torch Lake, and the second was the storm in 1958. Could you tell us about those?
Let's go back. My dad got himself in quite a few messes. Let's go back to Riverdale. Did I tell about the time he almost drowned there?
With a horse and the...
Horse and buggy?
Yes, you did.
All right, we'll skip that. We vacationed after Grandmother Richards died. We would rent a place at Junker's Resort on Torch Lake, and usually my folks would spend a few days with us. And I had just had a gallbladder operation on this at this particular time, and I was still in recovery, and I still had the bandages on the incision. But I was out on the diving raft, and the wind was up, and the waves were high, and I happened to look toward shore, and here was Dad trying to swim out to the diving raft over a deep hole. And I happened to notice that the waves were breaking over his head. So I, having just gotten out of the hospital, I called to Burton, who was on shore, and Heck, and
No,
it,
Heck wasn't there.
Heck wasn't there, I guess. Burton and who
Al
else?
Smith.
Oh yeah, Al Smith. And they started, and I could see they weren't going to make it out there to get him out, so I took off and I got to him first, and I got his head out of the water. And by that time, I had the help of the other fellows, and we got him out there, out of the water and on shore. But he was all right. But he confessed to us that he realized he was drowning.
Just quietly drowning, not flopping, not yelling, no big deal about it. He just didn't indicate in any way that he was in trouble.
I was lucky you spotted him.
Right.
Just one of those things that we were fortunate.
Well, Mom, perhaps you could tell the story of the big storm of 1958.
That year, we were spending our vacation on down on Torch, not at Junkers, but at a Pendock house. And we had borrowed my cousin Fred Bechtold's small boat, about a 12-foot
That's right.
motorboat, and his skis, and we were enjoying water skiing. You boys, you and Bill were both there, and then Dave and Carol came up for the weekend. They left Laura and Jimmy, I believe they had Jimmy at that time, with her mother, so that they were free as birds, and we were having a delightful time. But of course, when you have just a weekend, you have to make hay while the sun shines. And the lake had been absolutely quiet, just beautiful for water skiing, and so we'd been at it quite a while. And as the afternoon grew on, we saw this dark sky up to the northwest, where storms usually come from there. And as I recall, the last time that the boys went out to ski, they were trying this business of Bob driving the boat and Dave trying to climb up on top of Bill's shoulders, circus stuff, and I wanted them to not go anymore because I was concerned with the sky, but just once more, you know. And sometimes mothers open their mouths when they shouldn't and keep them closed when they should open them, and that was one of those times. The boys went out, and Bill was trying to Dave was trying to climb up on Bill's shoulders. He had dropped his 2 skis back in the lake, and of course the shoulder climbing business collapsed, and they both were in the water, and Bob went on with the boat, swung it around as usual to go back and get the skis. And I guess you looked up and saw this storm coming across the lake as you picked up the skis, right?
Yes, that was about a half a mile down the lake.
Yes, you had gone on, you got the skis, but looked up then and saw the storm, the wind just pushing the water ahead. And
The curtain clouds.
you got the skis in before you saw that. Otherwise, I'm sure you would have left them right there. Tore back to pick up the boys, and you should tell it from there.
Sorry. Well, when I got back, the waves were there. The water had been perfectly calm, but the waves, within a matter of a minute, were at about a foot, and the wind was blowing so hard I could not hear the engine running in the boat. And fortunately got Bill into the boat without any difficulty, but the wind was blowing the boat so fast that we had trouble then picking up Dave. And finally, in a last-ditch effort, we threw a tow rope to Dave, and fortunately pulled him into the boat, and then Bill and Dave both had to listen and tell me when the engine was running because it had died. And then by the time we swung the boat around to get into the river channel, the waves were probably about 3 to 4 feet deep. And when we finally got into Clam River, There were many boats coming in with a foot or 2 feet of water in their boats as they were trying to make it into the channel, and we just hiked it into one of the protected shelters and waited for the storm to subside. Plus, all kinds of debris had blown into the river by then, which we had to avoid. And later that storm actually blew down through the central Michigan on down to Detroit, and I believe killed 7 people. We felt very fortunate that we'd come out without any injuries.
In the meantime, Dad and Carol and I were standing on the beach, unable to see whether or not you fellas had gotten safely into the river. We were absolutely panic-stricken. Finally, then we drove down, I believe, and luckily found that you were in safely and took you back to the cottage. But that was a frightening experience. I think none of us ever will forget that scene.
It was almost hopeless to be standing on the beach, seeing this storm on its way, and we knew it was going to be a humdinger, and not being able to communicate with you boys out in that boat.
To watch you fooling around, climbing on each other's shoulders and so on with that storm coming. It was a terrible experience, and one I would not care to repeat.
Didn't you then go out and buy a big boat within a week, Dad?
Yeah, that's...
Well, we were very close, and still are, with the Fred Bechtols. And this little boat, although it rode these waves in good shape, but I thought, boy, this is something we should do something about. So Fred and I got together, and we went over at the end of the season, and we bought a Lyman, 18-foot, with a 75 horsepower Evinrude motor, brand new. And that was a good experience for me to have that new boat, and it was a dandy, and we still have it today, and it's just as good as ever. It's a real fine boat.
We finally bought Fred out a couple years later when he wanted a bigger boat than that. But actually, it was probably fortunate you had the little boat, in that it was easier to get the boys aboard than it would have been in the big boat.
There's some truth to that, although I expect the adrenaline was flowing so fast that we would have gotten into any boat.
Well, that could have been, of course. The big boat would have been safer in the waves and in the wind, but the little boat was easier to get into.
This has been a nice experience for Mother and I. We have flown up to Omaha from Venice, or rather Sarasota, to spend a couple of weeks with Bob and family. And it's one of those things that you probably realize you shouldn't do, but you do anyway. And it's been so nice to be here with the kids, and we've had lovely weather. And Bob, having this recording equipment, we are just more than pleased to kind of make a resume of our life. Mother?
Well, I would second all of your words and would add that Bob and Priscilla, and particularly I think Priscilla, because actually she seems like our own girl, but we aren't like her own people, but she makes...
We are sorry, but we missed one situation that was quite traumatic after we retired. At the time I retired, we were interested in a little sailboat for the lake, and the foundation, as a going away gift, decided that they were going to buy me a sailboat. I'd been talking about it, and
Ben needs to be in this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Bob had a real nice skylark that was very fast and over sailed, more sail on it than probably should have been. And I was taken with it, and he wanted to trade up to a larger sailboat, so the foundation bought it for us. And I think it was either first or second fall that we were at the lake. It was late in the summer. Mother and I were out sailing, and there was a pretty good wind. And we came about, and I don't know what happened, but over we went.
I was on the tiller and you were on the sheet, and between the two of us...
We failed to coordinate.
Right.
And over we went. Well, Mother had had some heart problems, and I was most concerned about her, and I was trying to get the sail around into the wind so we might be able to ride it, but after trying and trying and trying, we couldn't. And finally, it turned bottom up with the sail straight down, and we had failed to tie the mast into the boat.
Whoever had rigged it first had failed.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Well, that's a nice way to put it. But here was I with that mast between my legs, because I wasn't going to lose that mast, no matter what. And hanging onto one of the bilge boards. And here we were out probably half mile, maybe a lot farther. And the only thing that we could do at that point was to hang on and let the wind blow us into shore. Well, we didn't blow very fast because the boat wasn't catching the wind. And so we were there for some time when a boat came out. They could see that we were in trouble. And I wanted Mother right away to get into the boat, which she did. They got her into the boat. And they threw us some kind of a rope that was just a mess. All tangled up. And here I was, hanging onto this mast between my legs and hanging onto the boat. And then they did this from the prow of the boat, and they were going to back clear into shore that way. And finally, as exhausted as I was, I said, this will never work. You got to turn that boat around and get the tie from the back. Well, they finally did that, and they got the sailboat hooked on, and they pulled us into Junkers, which was the closest point. And when my feet touched that nice sand, boy, was I thankful. And then somebody at Junkers came out and helped us right the boat and get the mast in, and by that time I knew we'd had it, both of us. We were so weak and tired, but we had to get that boat back to our place, and so we got into it and we sailed her back.
I was willing to walk home and drag the boat behind us, but not Dad. He was going to sail that back, which meant more tacking, to get it back home.
Well, we got it back, and we got up to our home, and then we realized that we were in pretty bad shape.
Well, we finally discovered what the word exhaustion means, and besides, Dad had a cut on his foot that I think, did Dr. Roger put a stitch in there?
Oh, several stitches.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway, we went in to see Dr. Roger. He fixed us up.
Yeah, he gave us pills, and he said, you go home and get to bed early, and he gave us pills to put us to sleep, and we came through that without any...
On behalf of California, this is the Academy Award presentation for the Film of the Year, given to the Wesley Baker family for a fine performance this Christmas season in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, Chris, that's priceless.
Are you at a loss of words at this?
I am, and it's high time we're at a loss of words. This could go on forever. Oh, that's rare.
Yeah.
That's rare.
It's still on.
Okay, now we loosen this, and with this you can go up and down, and you can turn right and left now.
I see, okay. The red light's still on.
Okay, that means you're taking tape right now.
I am?
Yeah.
How do I turn it off?
Just push the trigger. Push the trigger. Push the trigger.
There you are.
Did you zoom on it?
Yep.
All right.
It was there.
Yeah.
What you got? Somebody taking over?
We got Howard Cosell here.
Got it right up in your lap, huh?
Are you shooting it right now?
Yes.
I walked right in front of it?
No.
We all covered up. They were putting on the
Billy! Billy! Honey, what would I do?
It really does help out a lot. No, not Debbie. No, that's Deanna. Oh, that's Deanna. That was
Okay, good.
Billy! Please? I'm gonna get him a plate. Bring him up here. I don't know where Rick is.
Yeah.
I think that's the absolute fit.
Well, hello there. How are you,
It should be moving, isn't it, Scott? Okay. Hi there.
a good picture?
Yeah, beautiful.
Good overview.
I don't know half of these people, but I'm sure taking their pictures.
There comes one I don't know right there. Duck your head down underneath the lens, right about here.
Are you up?
Making reproductions.
Very good. Looks like that.
Al Jackson, what are you doing in that group?
Tell us when you're shutting it off.
It's going.
It goes all the time?
Yep.
Are you taking a picture? Yes, I just ran.
I did it twice, and I had on.
That's all right.
What? Can we go through?
Sure, go ahead. I'm just figuring out what people
Look at everybody's got a
How you doing? Hey, you got this? Huh?
Oh.
Well, Irma, you and I had better get set and get this started. Now, how do you want us to sit, Ron?
Just sit and relax at the moment. This will take it a while to get this one together.
Right.
Okay. Who is with who?
All right. Come in, get together as families.
You want us together as family?
Right. Come on, we're ready to go.
We're all bakers.
A minute. Relax.
You push me.
Sit up straighter, dear.
Or famous by yourself.
No, we're going to want that on button.
Unbuttoned, yeah. Folds.
What's on now?
We've got some girls.
Sure. Some of my band-aids showing.
Well, we'll...
Your stitches, Band-Aid.
Okay, let's...
No, Vince,
Those little things behind your head show.
What little things these?
These.
Well, tough.
Okay.
Do these flap over?
I just put those on because when we got these chairs swung around in the light, they were soiled in the back. They need to visit the cleaner, or have the cleaner visit them.
Oh, because I was going to say, if they just flap over, you could probably just...
Going back where we
What
were.
we can do is put these things on the back. And
If you want to just stand there and unscrew those, then they
are
won't
they
show.
screwed?
Yeah, they just
You don't want to do that.
switch in.
No, Grandma has...
I think we can, most of it, we can stick somebody's hand
Will
on
you
top.
come in and get my families, please, so then Ron will place you.
Okay. Come in by
Where's
families.
Chris?
Well, be together by families.
Be together by
All
family,
right,
okay?
come on, honey.
Come on, sweetheart.
Did you come to Grandpa?
Daddy.
My big boy. Give Grandpa a big hug.
Yeah, I want that.
Lori over here by her husband? My husband's right next to me. Well, who's got the baby? Rich? We're missing.
Here's Chris. Bob.
Okay.
All right,
Where are we going to be? In the middle?
We're in the
let's
middle.
see. Barbara needs to be over on this side.
No, that's the David Bakers over there.
Yeah, that's right.
She belongs to us.
That's right.
Okay, we split.
Hey, Chris?
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Next to Chris.
Right here?
No,
Oh, this is all one.
Yeah, matter of fact, he is.
Is he taped?
No,
To finish out the reel.
not now.
Oh, he is taped.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Hi, Lori.
Where am I putting you?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. That'll just add to it.
It's adding to it. It's laying over. That's why it's fine.
Okay, let's see.
Pull your dress down a little bit, honey? Like it was.
Look alive, David.
Okay, everybody
Katie, sit up a
set?
little.
Take your hand down, Billy.
Take your hand down,
Don't
Rich.
mind gum. Take your hand
Put your hand
down.
on your knee.
That's
Yeah,
good.
Hi, Rich.
Now,
Scott,
Richie.
Scott, this
No,
way.
you gotta wait for the
You're gonna
flash,
get some
Rich.
candy because you're being.
Let Grandma take care of it.
Barb, open up.
Grandma's hanging
Katie,
on.
Katie, Scott, you just keep looking this way.
Everybody set? Eyes right here at my hand?
Real good.
Sit
You
up,
can smile
Katie.
over there, Irma. You got that new tooth, you know.
Ah, yeah. Let's see
Okay,
it.
eyes right here again.
Smile a little, Scott.
You need to come over just a little. No, you're fine right there. How about if you put that hand right there?
Calming effect.
Yeah. Quiet down, Grandma, huh? Now, the rest of you stay put and let Grandpa handle
No, pull it back on the chair.
Finally ready.
We're ready.
That's good.
Okay.
Anybody see anything they don't like that I'm
Put your
missing?
hand
Not at
Yeah,
all.
how about Dad's coat there? Dad's coat's really bulging in the back.
See how that would work?
Just hand
Okay.
it them, thing. Fine, hand it. That's better.
Okay. Still kind of
Stand up.
lean forward with just one arm up here. There you go.
That's
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, yeah.
Now, everybody stay still and let Grandpa take care of it.
Oh, you rascal.
Okay,
Don't
right
cry.
here with the eyes.
Look,
Okay.
Everybody's all set.
Oh, you rascal.
Say cheese.
Look at the man,
Say
baby.
cheese.
Hey, Billy.
Oh, Billy, come on now.
Hey, Billy,
Keep your
Billy.
eyes right here.
where are those fish?
Hey, Billy.
Oh! There's where the fish are. In
Yeah, in
there.
there. Well, we'll go see him in a minute if you take your hand
you
down.
Take your hand out, Billy.
Put your hand down.
One
Did you
more like
ask
this.
to hold the
Okay.
fish, Billy?
Oh, that's up there.
Yes,
Hey,
Billy.
Right
Billy.
here.
Put your hand down. Put your hand down and you'll look at
Okay.
Hey, Billy,
There we are.
Billy,
Look at the bunny.
look at the light over there. Watch the light.
Oh, that was it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, kids. That it?
Now you want the adults back in, right?
Right.
Okay, kids.
Okay, Lisa, we better put it away now.
California company.
No, it's all gone. Everybody else had some too.
Second. Move your chair in.
Wasn't gonna next time.
Lucky. Come on.
Pop, we'll have pop in a little bit. Watch. Good surprise. Guys,
I'm trying to get that thing.
Lisa.
That's it.
These people like a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to come back a bit. You need to come right in here.
Me?
Just say thank you.
This way.
Not too much. That's good. Just far enough in so your hand's naturally going to fall right there.
Are you getting all these little buttons?
Lisa, may I please have one?
Okay. You need to come this way. Just.
You got enough room over there?
Okay. Bring it up.
I'm gonna put Irma up. I don't want to fall.
You remember Chris that I
Well, you got an
forgot?
armful there with those two good-looking girls, don't you?
Turn on good and fix it.
That's what happened at my parents' house. Somebody told a dirty joke. Everybody started laughing.
His pants crooked down there? His legs?
Want me to stand up and straighten them out?
Give it a try. You wanted to get out and stretch anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There. I bet you wouldn't want to do this every day, would you?
I wouldn't mind. Not with all this around me.
Okay.
Can you come over to your right just a little bit?
Okay, that's good. Halfway on, Chris.
Look, Tong's back here. They're pinching me.
Yeah.